Funny thing about D&D campaigns. There is no value to the player's character's life outside of the adventure. What I mean is that they didn't exist prior to that and they will not exist after. Or in other words, they are characters made specifically for that campaign adventure. To have that value, we do not begin with the actual adventure. We don't begin in the ring discovery moment, if you will. We begin way before, in the day-to-day life, in the connection to a place the players can call home. Connection with other player characters and to DM-controlled NPC characters, and also in the very bond between the player itself and its own character. I touched on it briefly in my previous video. The need to have a value to your character's life first, so you could appreciate what losing it means. So you would respect every breath it takes and every move it makes. This is a new theoretical genre, a new way to roleplay. We'll call that Epic Fantasy Role-Playing Sims, because it seeks to simulate the same depth, grandeur and complexity of a fantasy novel with players and DMs. How can we do that? Well, let's look at examples. There are no projects that actually do that, but there are projects that captured essences of it. You can see it in my documentary of Haze V1, of which I made several videos about. It's a Neverwinter Nights roleplay server from 21 years ago. There were day-to-day lives combined with high-stakes DM events. We can also see it in civilization simulation events. Here is one in Minecraft.
They stole. They didn't deserve to be killed over it.
Do you really want to go to war over this?
Well, if you keep killing our people, then we won't just stand by and watch.
Alright, fine. The sea people declare war.
Alright, let's do it.
But before our fight could begin, Wazik yelled, "Double now!"
Both of those types of projects, Haze and SimCiv events, rely heavily on crafting and resource gathering to keep players engaged. In persistent worlds, where there are lots of dead time zones, it helps fill the gap until something exciting happens, while in Civ Sim events, it's a necessary part of the competition for resources and advancement. But the focus on crafting and resource gathering is a huge distraction. We can see it here. This is footage from Haze V3 in Neverwinter Nights from 2020. I was heavily invested in this project. I accepted the lead dungeon master role because I thought it could be a realization of an epic fantasy roleplay sim. As we launched the project, I began noticing how players were heavily invested in crafting and resource gathering. This entire, seemingly obsession of players for resource gathering and crafting drove me absolutely nuts. I kind of felt like it's all they talk about. I began feeling the very existence of it was sending the wrong message and inviting the wrong crowd. It wasn't so much role-playing anymore, it was craft-playing. But I don't blame the players. We set up the system like that. The players were just playing. They were reacting to the system that we had set in place. Point is, I truly began loathing crafting. It became clear that I have a different visions from the rest of the staff. I left, others took over. It's still up and running as of making of this video. The new staff managed to maintain stability, which is very hard to do on a permadeath roleplay server. My vision is different. I don't want players to focus on crafting. Time is a valuable resource. That's why I want role players to roleplay and nothing else. This is the crux of what epic fantasy sims are going to be about at their core. Minimal distractions with game mechanics, large concentrated dosage of roleplay, all in a relatively short time span to maximize storytelling efficiency. So how can we do that? How can we achieve epic fantasy roleplay sims that seek to simulate the same depth, grandeur and complexity of a fantasy novel with players and dungeon masters? It's an entirely new art form, and we are at the bleeding edge of it. Well, I did spend some time thinking about it, drawing on my experience, drawing inspiration from other projects, and just imagining how it could work. It's a model, a prototype if you will, a starting point. There will be several factions, just like there are in a fantasy novel. Each faction will have a DM. The DM embodies the faction. The DM runs all the NPCs and local events. They are responsible for making it feel alive. Before the project even begins, each DM will offer roles for their faction. such as Captain of the Guard, Local Ranger, or Young Princess, etc., etc. Players can apply for those roles, but those roles don't come with a pre-existing origin character. You can think of them more as template characters. Players will still be responsible for the names, looks, and personality of the role they scored, which of course has to be approved by the faction DM. But now there is another problem. Say we launch like this. Wouldn't it feel awkward and unnatural to start playing a character that should already know a whole lot of stuff? A character with memories, that knows all the other characters and knows its environment? No, that's a bad idea. We don't want to make players memorize and learn a lot of information before they start playing. That's exhausting. It's also unnerving as a player to play an already established character. Point is, it should be fun from the beginning and not feel like you have to do history homework just to get started. To solve this problem, we'll use a memory loss narrative. It's not the A plot nor even the B plot, it's a tool to make the players feel comfortable. So we can say there is a known curse that can affect memory loss. The new player characters therefore don't remember anything and have to be reminded by the DM-controlled NPCs who they are, what they do. This is done entirely in character. It can take some time in the beginning to get the players and DMs comfortable with the situation, but this will allow players to jump into meaningful roles while not having to memorize a whole lot of lore. This process will happen in various factions throughout the server. After players get their memory jogged back entirely in character, other DM events can begin. At this stage, say for a week, each DM runs some localized events for their own factions. This solidifies the familiarity between the player characters, helps them learn their environment better, and most importantly, care about their character's life. The second stage is where a different type of DMs will make their presence more felt. Let's call them the Master Plot DMs, because they run the Master Plot. It can be whatever, it's the ring discovery moment. An army amassing somewhere, a dragon, or basically any MacGuffin to make some movement, create more interaction between the factions. A faction may choose not to get involved and maintain their isolationism, which is perfectly fine. In that case, they go back to their localized DM events and stories, which may have their own fun, interesting, and dramatic conclusions. Of course, whatever is happening in the main story may eventually affect them too. Well, I guess it depends on the plot. Point is, nobody necessarily has to get involved, let alone be helpful just because they spotted the main story. That's the thing, you don't have to chase the main story and DM attention. You just need to play true to your character, be whatever the cost. You will get plenty of DM attention anyway, even if you don't get involved in the main plot. You don't have to chase it, cause having all the players jumped at the plot can make it feel weird and overwhelming. Again, all you have to do is play true to your character. Also, there are no rules that you have to play nice. For instance, if you want to take the proverbial ring for yourself because that's what your character would do, take it. This is how players' decisions can change the course of the story. Finally, a story needs an ending. So, once the big thing happened and the epilogue is played out, we can safely roll out the credits. Feel free to write in the comment section what you think. This is after all a kind of R&D for fantasy and creativity.